morning. It's Friday the 22nd of May in the year 2020. That was a weird intro, wasn't it? You can tell I don't plan these. I open my gob and stuff just falls out. It's Friday the 22nd of May. It's Mental Health Awareness Week. And I just wanted to come and have a bit of a chops and a bit of a chat about things to do with mental health. You know, it's very much my bag, very much my brand. Before I get into it, and I'm planning not to go on for too long, I can't be doing any sort of video now and not acknowledge what's going on in the world. I did post a video, I think, to my YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago about the whole coronavirus thing. And I've posted a video on Facebook, a couple of videos, have ranty tirades about the way it's been handled. So I can't not acknowledge it. It's not specifically what I've come here to talk about, but it would be silly to not sort of draw attention to it. So I guess we're about 2 months in, something like that. I know schools closed on the 20th of March. I finished work on the 10th of April. I'm currently furloughed. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going back. I thought I was going back on the 1st of June and now I'm not sure that I am. So it's a weird old time for anybody, and if previously you have been sunshine and Disney sparkles in your life up to this point, I'd wager everybody's mental health and mental stability will have taken a bit of a kick in during this time, because it's just, here's the buzzword, unprecedented. We've never been in a situation like this before, and it's scary, and you know, people are worried about their job, about their finances, about their children, about their parents. So if you're somebody who's, as I say, normally pretty mentally solid, this experience of perhaps your mental health being a little bit sketchy may have been extra difficult for you to deal with because you're not used to it. If, like me, you're used to having crappy mental health, it's almost like the way I'm responding to it, or the way people with anxiety disorders are responding to it, for once, our reactions are kind of normal. Because if you suffer with anxiety, and I don't as a general rule, but if you do, a lot of the time you might find yourself catastrophizing about like all the things that could go wrong. On a daily basis, you could be dealing with, what if this happens, what if that happens, this could happen and this could happen. And for people with anxiety disorders, that can be what it's like. I'm basing it on friends I've spoken to, things I've read, because it isn't my experience. But now all of a sudden we're in a global pandemic and we're trapped in our homes. I mean, we're not, but I'm not getting into that again. So our panicky reactions or our dip in mental health is actually quite normal. A couple of times over this period of lockdown, such as it is, I've gone into the big cupboard in my kitchen, in my flat, where the fridge lives, and I've cried in a dark cupboard because it all got a bit much. I think it was probably, I mean, at least one of them was a result of trying to homeschool my children, specifically my son. The other time it happened, it was a Saturday, and we all got on each other's nerves, and we ended up with all three of us crying in different parts of a very, very small flat. So that's happening. But I wanted to talk about mental health awareness and Mental Health Awareness Week. Last year, weirdly, I just re-watched my video from 2019's Mental Health Awareness Month, or week. I talked about living with BPD. I talked about the fact that the theme for last year's was body image. This year, the theme for Mental Health Awareness Week is kindness. Now, at the beginning of 2020, before the coronavirus shitstorm, a television presenter called Caroline Flack took her own life. And this is an awful thing. I think we might still be talking about it now had we not then found ourselves in the midst of a global pandemic. But off the back of that, there was a lot of posting on social media encouraging us to be kind, because the press and social media, as a general rule, hadn't shown Caroline a lot of kindness. She obviously did have problems with her mental health. There'd been an incident with her boyfriend where the police were called, and I think she was either charged or suspected of attacking him. I'm kind of not sure on the details because I'll be honest, I wasn't particularly a fan of hers, and I'm not one who follows celebrity gossip anyway. I'm not saying I'm, Little Miss Highbrow. I'm not. I don't like magazines like Heat and Reveal and Closer. They're not my bag. I'm not interested in somebody's cellulite or, look at this picture of Katie Price with no makeup on, doesn't she look horrendous? That's not my thing. It's cruel and it's unnecessary. So as I say, I don't know the ins and outs of the Caroline Flack situation, but there was something to do with her boyfriend, a restraining order. I think she was due in court. There was an argument that she was being treated differently because of her celebrity status, and by differently I mean they were being almost unfair on her. The press were piling on, everybody had an opinion. People don't think when they're tweeting, or commenting on an article, can't believe she did this, bang her up. And then other people going, well, that's not fair. It's the way we live, that everybody has, opinions are like arseholes, everybody has them. And yeah, people, will gladly share them online because they don't tend to think about the person at the other end of it. And there is a real person at the other end of it. And the UK got a big old slap in the face when she took her own life. And a lot of people who had sent nasty comments, whether it was, did you see her present an X Factor, look at the state of her, can't believe she wore that, looks like a whore, whatever else, you're throwing that comment out into the ether. You're not thinking about the person at the other end, and then all of a sudden the person at the other end of these comments was dead. She'd taken her own life. And she was young. She was what, early 30s? A bit younger than me, maybe? And she was gone, and everybody was horrified, and everybody was hashtagging Be Kind, and the bloody newspapers and awful magazines that are torn out to shreds time and time again were encouraging people to hashtag Be Kind. And you think, hashtag hypocrisy. So that was quite the thing for about 5 minutes, and then this whole coronavirus lark started gearing up, and it kind of got forgotten about. But it's the theme of Mental Health Awareness Week, and I think it's something to certainly think about. So as I say, I watched the video just now, 25 minutes, mother of God, 25 minutes of me rambling on about living with BPD, being diagnosed, what it meant, how it manifested in me. It was quite interesting to watch it back. And I thought it was interesting to reflect on where I am now, pretty much a year on from then. I'm not better or cured, but I'd say that I probably manage it a little bit better. I'm now almost 18 months on from being diagnosed in the first place, and it has helped knowing what's wrong with me, and that often, although I don't like wheeling it out as an excuse or playing as a top trumps card, quite often it is the reason why I behave the way I do, which may not be socially acceptable or may be a little bit out of order. I'm very self-aware, I always have been. I think when I was with my ex, one of the things he found so frustrating was the fact that I was very aware of what was wrong with me, although I didn't specifically know I had BPD, but that I never seemed able to do anything about it. I think now I'm really good at recognising when I'm acting up and it's a BPD thing, and I'm getting better at taking a step back from it. I'm getting better at protecting myself. I'm very open, I've always said this, but I can now say to friends when I've acted in a way that I'm perhaps not hugely keen on, or maybe a bit off, while my intention will never have been to cause harm or malice, sometimes I act up and I hate saying this, but because I'm supposed to be kind to myself, but sometimes I am just a bit of a knob, And I'm getting better at saying, hey, I've been a bit of a knob. I'm really sorry. I have this mental illness. Sometimes it makes me act like an arse. Please forgive me. And it's not a get out of jail free card. It's not like a free pass. You still have to be a good human. But I'm getting better. I'm taking less medication than I was this time last year. At the start of lockdown, I was on 150 milligrams of sertraline. I'm now on 50. A couple of days ago, I was crying in a cupboard and I thought, oh God, I shouldn't have reduced myself down to 50. But also I know my period is due, soz, hashtag overshare. And when my period's due, my mood just goes. So that's happening. And we're in the middle of a pandemic. Have I mentioned that? And I'm trying to homeschool and other things. So yeah, I lost my S a little bit and I went and hid in a cupboard and had a big cry after I'd shouted at my child. And then I apologised and we all had a big hug and, it was okay. So I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about mental health, awareness of it. It's one thing to hashtag be kind or hashtag it's okay not to be okay, but are you taking that on board yourself? Are you being kind to yourself? Or are you telling yourself you haven't got time to be kind to yourself? I blogged for the first time in a year, and I wrote about how I'd managed to get off the hamster wheel because suddenly I had this time off work and I had this time to myself. What makes me laugh is I had a couple of weeks in lockdown where I had a routine of sorts with my ex in terms of the kids. I was actually getting, and don't hate me if you're out there and you've got your own children full time as it's supposed to be. I don't have my own children full time because I share them with their dad. We're not together anymore. So I was getting a couple of days a week to myself. Bliss. I was zen as fuck. Meditating, I was journaling, I was watching loads of films, I was finding time to do shizzle like paint my nails, and I was eating really well, lost 5 pounds, sharing all my Instagram pictures of all my lovely meals, and then beginning of last week it went to shit. Because I'm such an all or nothing person, and I know this is, again, it's tied to the BPD, but I'm either bossing everything or my life's in flames, and I'm working so hard to find balance. So the only thing I've consistently done through this lockdown is the Couch to 5K program. This morning I went out and I ran 25 minutes solidly. I finished week 6. I've got 3 more weeks to go before I finish the program. I did manage to lose 5 pounds. I'm pretty sure in the last 2 weeks I've put them back on. Food and sweet stuff is a coping mechanism for me, and it's safer than booze. So yeah, I'm about 2 to 3 stone heavier than I'd like to be, but I can live with that. I mean, sometimes I can't, but mainly I can. I need to just be kind, and I think part of what I wrote about in the blog and things I'm realising is I've had 2 years, maybe more, of people telling me how strong I am, how, like, this sounds like I'm just blowing my own trumpet. I'm not, but people say, oh, like, I can't believe how strong you are, and I always think, I'm not strong. I cry in cupboards. I lose my shit on a regular. I'm a social media whore at times, like putting up pictures to get likes because it makes me feel better, and I don't feel strong. I need help from so many people to keep going, and so many people have got me to this point. 2.5 years on from diagnosis, 2.5 years on from splitting from Pete, and just over 2 years on from moving out, from sharing a house with him and all that sort of stuff. And all these people telling me I'm strong, and I always thought, but I'm not, because I can't do any of this by myself. But I think I've started to realise, in the spirit of being kinder to myself, that actually I am stronger than I realise. Because through all this, I've managed to keep a roof over mine and the children's heads. I've managed to hold down a job. Not only that, but this time last year I was working 9 till 2 in the warehouse. I was mainly picking, driving my truck, picking my boxes, but I was also helping with the coaching. And at the end of May 2019, I found out that I'd got a promotion I'd gone for. So I'm almost a year into my new role. Fair enough, I haven't been there since the 10th of April because my new role, which isn't that new now, is to handle administration caused by training, and at the minute we're not training anybody because the warehouse is running on a skeleton staff due to, you know, the coronavirus thing. But I managed to get promoted. I managed to get approved for flats. I've managed to keep my children with me, and, you know, they still like me, which is a huge bonus. So if I'm being kinder to myself, I can acknowledge that actually I am doing okay. And it's not easy. It's, oh man, living with BPD, and I don't have the most extreme version. I'm not suicidal, I never have been, I've never self-harmed. This isn't me showing off. But I said in last year's video, somebody I met in therapy who had the same thing as me, you know, all the people I was in therapy with had different disorders and different reasons why they needed to be there. But there was one specific girl who had the same thing as me, and she was a more extreme case than I. And yeah, so I don't have the most extreme version of BPD, but I do have it. And it is hard. I've lost my train of thought a little bit. Yeah, living with it is hard. I discovered somebody on Twitter. His name's Joe Tracini. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's actually Joe Pasquale's son. So if you know who Joe Pasquale is, Joe is his son. And he lives with BPD. And I started to see these videos on Twitter, and they blew my mind because he did this brilliant split screen thing where on one side it was him and the other side it was him, but had a t-shirt on saying BPD and basically saying, this is what it's like. Now, it's not a split personality disorder. That's not what we've got, but it is like having... He describes it as having an arsehole living in his brain, and that arsehole tells him regularly, daily, to kill himself. And I can't imagine how difficult that must be. What I live with is, I guess, a slightly kinder arsehole that just tells me fairly regularly that I'm worthless, that I'll never find love, that I'm failing my children, and it whispers or shouts, and it's hard, man, because on a down day, if I'm tired and I'm struggling and I'm worried, and that little monster, that little arsehole comes along and says, nobody's ever going to love you, you're going to be single forever, I just think, well, I listen and I agree, and I think, yeah, that's my fate. It's not, hopefully. In the spirit of kindness to myself, I'm not that bad. I mean, I'm a little bit squishy around the middle at the minute, although I can run for 25 minutes and not die, so that's bonus. I did have a relationship briefly last summer. It didn't last. It was quite nice while it lasted. I spoke last year about my BPD causing me to indulge in certain behaviours and do certain things to get attention. Nothing drastic. I'm not on the game. I'm not, whoring myself on a street corner. But I've allowed myself to be used by certain men in certain ways. I seem to have a specific line in men who need their ego rebuilding after a relationship has fallen apart, a long-term relationship has fallen apart. I seem to fit into that role quite nicely, where I tell them how wonderful they are and allow them to rebuild their ego so they can then pursue a real relationship with somebody else. I mean, that's really nice of me, isn't it? So yeah, that's a bit rubbish. But hopefully I will find somebody who will think I'm smashing. Might shift a bit of weight, might not. May continue eating like an unsupervised toddler at a birthday party. I think the thing with me is I know I'll always go through those cycles where I am being, Little Miss Healthy Eating, and I will post all the Instagram pictures of me food and then it'll go to crap again. And that's just me, And that's a lot of people. You go through cycles where you're in a particular headspace and you're, thinking and doing a certain vibe, and then it changes. I'm going to wrap this up because I really didn't intend to talk for this long. Be kind. Don't just hashtag it. Don't just wear it on a t-shirt. Don't just tweet it. Actually do it to yourself and to other people around you. You have no idea how much a compliment can make somebody's day. And we're very British and we tend not to give them. Or we can't take them. You know, there was a running joke I used to have with my Slimming World members that when you'd say, oh, you know, I really like your dress, and you'd go, Primark, it's £2. It was only £2. Who needs to know? Your dress is nice. Say thank you. Someone says your hair looks nice, don't go, I need my roots doing. I mean, I do need my roots doing, but take the compliment and compliment yourself. That inner, like, I know what I'm saying about having the arsehole living in my brain is my illness, but anybody, you know, we have a tendency to be quite cruel to ourselves. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but if you wouldn't say it to your best mate or your child, don't say it to yourself. Don't, because that's so damaging. Think about the way you talk to yourself, and talk to yourself, you know, the way you'd want to be spoken to by other people. Be kind. It's not that difficult. You know, just spread a little bit of loveliness. Tell somebody that their hair looks nice. You know, or just, I really like your top. We're British and we tend not to do it because maybe it feels a bit weird, but just saying, I mean, we're all socially distanced at the minute, or we're supposed to be, but if you're in the queue at Tesco's and you're stood 2 metres behind somebody, just go, excuse me, hello, I really like your trousers. It means a lot. Doesn't cost you anything. They'll feel good, you'll feel good. They might throw it back in your face and go, oh, they cost £2, you know, I haven't worn them for years, blah blah blah, whatever, it doesn't matter. You've paid the compliment and it makes you feel better. Pay yourself a compliment. You know, look at yourself in the mirror and go, you look smashing today. You don't have to do it out loud, you might feel a bit of an idiot, but just, yeah, I keep saying it, be kind to yourself. You're doing the best job that you can. Nobody's winning at the minute. You know, we're all having rough days. We're all struggling with the homeschooling. We're all frustrated and fed up of being separated from friends and family. But yeah, just be nice to yourself. Especially if you're, you know, on lockdown, you're spending a lot of time with yourself without the distractions of others. So make sure that that inner dialogue with yourself is a nice one. Don't be a dick. I really need to wrap this up. My children will be delivered to me soon. It's Friday, which means Pete's done the homeschooling and I don't have to. Woo! I need to eat. I haven't said anything about the Disney Bowl. I'm not going to. Isn't it lovely? Woo! Thanks for listening. Be kind. Keep your distance. Stay alert. Stay alert, honest to God. But yeah, I hope you're alright, you bunch of smashers. Thank you for listening to me for 20 odd minutes if you have. Be excellent to each other. Don't be a dick. I think we've covered all the bases, haven't we? Just stay safe, guys. And, you know, one last time, be kind.